right, here we go. Ben.
Guys, I'm loving this. The intro is awesome. I feel like, how do you guys feel? Like you're doing it. This is like an idea not that long ago.
This is why we put you at the end, to bring the heat at the end.
And you got the memo, the all black. There you go. You must have been watching the
show. Yeah. I feel like we're all cut from the same cloth in some ways.
We had to warm up the rails a little bit because the intro broke a few times in the beginning, but that was a smooth one. I don't know if you saw
the step in the squads transition. We just forget about that one. It's like one little thing each stream, and we're watching our engineer producer Andre just sit there behind the screen like, okay, let's go.
You got to I was in the green room a little bit, which is
he's super cool. I also do you mute on purpose during the thing? I started making like noises of like, oh, this is awesome, and realized, oh, I don't know if I'm muted on the stream or not. But anyway, good to see you guys.
Great to see you too.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for being a supporter of just everything we've been doing. Looking forward to seeing you next week at the Very Stable Conference. How are you doing in the Midwest right now?
I'm cold. Like I don't want to talk about it. Let's talk about stablecoins. I'm ready to get San Francisco.
Yeah, I'm pumped. Ben, there's a lot of things in flight with Brale right now, like the event we can talk about. We got the podcast season that's been really fun to produce with you guys that we're rolling out currently. We have Brale just independently. There's so much going on with what you guys are seeing. Maybe we start and maybe we go down that order. Like, tell us about next week, what you're excited for, and maybe some context on a Very Stable conference. It sounds like if people are in San Francisco, maybe are there still spots left? Is it oversubscribed? What's the kind of vibe right now? I don't know if you see what it's like. I remember last year was like extremely oversubscribed, but
I think the organizers have done a nice job with that. I mean, obviously we're not the organizers. Io and Aaron are, running this season just like they did last season. And, I feel like my email is totally unusable at the moment, but I definitely am seeing like, hey, can you like send these guys a ping to get me in? And I'm sending anybody watching, like send me an email. I try to pass everything I see along, but I do think they've done a great job in really trying to get high quality people in the room. And, I'm obviously really excited. My job next week is more on the moderator side. I get to sort of like host Eric from Canton, who I just think is amazing, and get to chat with Matthew from Cloudflare, who I just think is amazing. So, I get to talk with amazing people all day, and that sounds like fun. And, stablecoins are still a thing, thank God. So it should be quite interesting.
Yeah, it's not a bad gig. I think also too, I'm on the West Coast. We don't have a ton of conferences. I mean, I think Money 2020 comes to Vegas. San Francisco gets a few one-offs, but the Very Stable Conference is definitely the highlight, and I'm looking forward to next week. I guess on the topic of Canton, we'll have an episode coming out of Stable Minded soon. We've talked a lot, even just off camera, about early, emerging ecosystems. Why do you still get excited to go talk to Eric from Canton, next week at the Very Stable Conference?
You guys have heard my sort of like stablecoin maxi spiel a number of times, but like in the like three forms of adoption that we see: payments, embedded finance, and financial institutions. Financial institutions represent the largest one over the longest adoption arc. That could be a 30 to 50 year adoption arc as quadrillions of dollars come on chain. And if you think about the core primitives that enable them to participate, things like counterparty privacy, there aren't a lot of actual blockchains that are live, up and running, usable, and used by existing financial institutions today. And, the talk pilot, I always like, talking about, but, Brale has a lot of things that we do through Canton, and our customers really like that privacy element to it. And I think they're a leader in that way. And so if you think about that 30 to 50 year arc, Canton is relevant in that 30 to 50 year arc. It's not like a in this moment thing. It is in many moments to come, which I think is very exciting. And, Eric and the DA team, I think, have had a lot to do with sort of the forethought into what do financial institutions need to participate to come on chain. That's why I think that's so exciting. I could talk all day about it, but I think that's really like the first blockchain or ecosystem that's like delivering on the promise for real.
I know you've talked about moments in the Stable Minded episode we did with you, and I feel like one of the moments that we're coming up in, you mentioned ARC, but even the ARC blockchain, the Tempo blockchain, the plasma, the stable, kind of this moment of building on maybe what Canton started with a more stablecoin centric approach. I think even last week with Tempo Mainnet, Brale announced support for Tempo. How do you see these other ecosystems fitting into this narrative? Are they serving a similar ICP? Are they building for different people? And where does Brale maybe fit in this emerging ecosystem paradigm?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of them are probably competing as we look into the future. You know, the tempo thing, like they told us to take it down. Apparently we went too fast. So we took the vlog down, and like, you know, we're still doing our testing and stuff. But for those watching, Brale loves integrating with new ecosystems. We love to be a great partner integrating new ecosystems. We do. We try to make the thing great. And so like with Tempo, you know, on the other side of that, there's Radius. And I feel like both of them are sort of working to deliver on the promise for agentic commerce. Because if you start thinking about operating at internet type scale, when we think about Visa as like a payments mechanism, if you look at the number of transactions going through Visa and then left and right that with the number of transactions going through Cloudflare system, we're entering an era where like a new type of scale is like entering the room. And that is awesome, but it's going to require new infrastructure. And so, you know, whether or not it's Tempo or Radius, we believe the internet is big enough for both. And likely there are going to be different types of products built on both. And in such a multi-chain universe, it's very possible that these things are also interacting in ways that the developers developing them themselves today aren't even imagining. But super high throughput systems are important to bring, you know, money on chain, money into protocols, bring it into sessions, bring it into agents. Like this is the groundwork that has to be laid in order to realize the potential.
Yeah. So making this a little personal to Brale, something that we just continue to be appreciative of with Brale, and what I think is really special about the business in many ways is the development and the ownership that you guys have had on a lot of the infrastructure, the licensing, how you've approached a ton of what the Brale API offers to some of these early ecosystems or companies around the space who are trying to bring stablecoins to market. Like you guys, I think, have a lot of what either they know they need or don't know they need yet in one place. What are you seeing while we're talking about these early ecosystems, maybe specifically? What are they most thankful or appreciative of with Brale in terms of what you guys are bringing them? Like what are the things that as you look back, you're like, damn, I'm so happy we built that, because this is a crucial part of the stack that someone like Radius and Bench are going to be really thankful for?
You know, it's an interesting question because I don't hear the words like thank you very often. I hear a lot of like urgency and like, can you just like go a little bit faster? But if I think about like what are the things that maybe create benefit for the clients or for the integrations in the long term, it's that, you know, we have our own licenses. We built our own correspondent bank network. We sort of like did the hard work to set up the things that would give our customers the ability to launch on the chains that they want to be in, to go to new chains whenever they want, to have on-ramps and off-ramps and automatic configuration with all of the bank partners without having to go negotiate all those themselves. And so we think those are the things that really help. But then there is underlying technology like the normalization of how we integrate new blockchains into the ecosystem with mint and burn mechanisms that maintain sort of like state, or we call it natural supply. So you're not like wrapping and bridging stablecoins. Strangely, you're maintaining the amount of supply that's actually in reserves. And so we think those are enabling things that help us go really fast and help our clients go fast. But once they find like a new hurdle, you know, that's where I think I spend a lot of my time hearing about those hurdles. And today, I was talking to a client this morning. They're trying to work through getting wire reconciliation down to like, you know, minutes. And in a world where we think now on chain and everything is instant, 5-10 years ago, it was like, man, if you get the wire cleared today, good for you. And now we're optimizing API webhooks on thinking about like minutes. Those are two wildly different problems. And once that's solved, you know, there's going to be another opportunity on top of that. I'm very self-aware that I hear it all the time from Jim. The reward for good work is more good work. And, you know, we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. I think we need to, Zach, play. Maybe we'll go back once we're done streaming and kind of replay Stepan from Altitude, some of the things that he said around ACH pull. But I was just, Ben, given your background and some of the things, we had the CEO of Altitude and Squads on before you on the stream, and he was talking about all the complexities around building, stablecoin banking products and dashboards and things where you're kind of going in and out of the fiat world. And the specific thing we centered on was the pain of like ACH pull was something that came up. Given your focus and history around this stuff, I'm wondering if you had any thoughts on that, just since that was a conversation we just had of what makes
it even
that
made
hard.
me instantly think of your work with CoinFlow.
Yeah, I almost asked. I was like, I almost started shilling Brale and CoinFlow, but
Yeah.
I held back.
Like, have you looked at this for to solve your problem? But yeah, maybe.
What makes this so hard, Ben, in terms of like stablecoins and ACH pull?
Oh man, I feel like I don't want to talk about ACH anymore.
We were
I want
having
to talk
such a
about
great
the weather.
conversation.
ACH is one of those things. It is funny. Somebody on X called me an ACH maxi, and I'm like, in the back of my head, I was like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I just like we had to deal with it, and it's one of those things. It's beautiful in that systems like ACH or other systems like it around the world are connected to everybody's accounts. It's how you get connected to everyday Americans and make the workflows work for people that want to use these technologies. But in terms of like the complexities of how to manage ACH pull and all the different return codes, like none of us want to deal with it. I feel like that's one of the things I wish the agents would just solve that. So like we don't have to talk about it. But for the time being, that is the way we get money into new ecosystems and back out so that everyday people can have the experiences that they expect with their bank accounts.
Yeah. Well, maybe specifically with Brale's current stack, to get a little bit more granular, like what are the things that are currently available that you're proud of that with Brale I can do now? I know you guys you're rolling out so many different things around issuing, minting, redeeming, interfacing with things like Plaid and all these other things. Like what's currently available in this kind of conversation around ACH, and maybe also what is yet to be built that you're looking into?
Yeah. I mean, if you thought about it, then the easiest way to think about it is you can roll out a stablecoin that's custom on Brale. It's instantly interoperable with all other Brale issued stablecoins, Circle and Paxos assets, and we're adding other issuers. It is also instantly compatible out of the box with every bank account in America, credit or debit. And there are other products and services that surround it, like APIs that allow you to build that particular functionality into applications to service end users. So the number of complexities and variations inside of that, guys that fill a book this big with what you can do. But generally speaking, it's all about, empowering people and developers to build applications to get in and out of different assets and making it possible for businesses to basically utilize the new protocols. And also, obviously, we love integrating with new ecosystems where each new ecosystem tends to have its own unique profile, like agentic commerce on Radius, institutional applications on Canton. These are totally different than what you might see as a payments company building on Solana, which payments companies love Solana. You got to be everywhere.
Yeah.
I got a question. No, I was going to say, so we look at the breadth of the Brale ecosystem right now. We've seen SBC, we've seen MXNE, we've seen CoinFlow stablecoin. One that really interests me is the litUSD. I think that's a mortgage related stablecoin. I mean,
Yeah.
how
this is Brale issued? I haven't heard of this one.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to get into is, we hear these payment-centered use cases with payments, but I'm curious on these ones that are in the fringes and kind of where stablecoin issuance is going, especially, if anybody's bought or sold a house in the U.S., that day where you're waiting for the wire transfer to go through is painful. I used to work in the mortgage industry too, so I can remember missing the wire cutoff. Can you talk to maybe a little bit about that stablecoin, but even just kind of this broader vision, like who do you want to start building stablecoins? Who's not building them that should be, and thinking about building a custom branded stablecoin?
Pulling up litUSD while we speak of this. Hopefully this will work. Here we go. Okay, so you're not lying. This is a real thing here.
No, it's real.
Here we
You know,
go.
the other thing, guys, is like these things are launching all the time, and they launch every day. You know, it's not a thing where we stand on ceremony anymore when someone launches a stablecoin. It's, you know, it's Tuesday at noon. Of course, they're rolling out stablecoins, and in that way, developers are constantly finding new applications for them. And I do think there is an element of this of like, oh, if you could create your own money or you could create your own stablecoin, what would you do and how would you make use of that? There are lots of people that like I'm playing with agents on the weekend to like get to know them. There are people that are playing with stablecoins on the weekend just to understand like how these things work. So, you know, I do think that's one aspect of some of it, but also from a business perspective, guys, you know, payments and embedded finance companies that are going into protocols, this is a business decision. It's a way to reduce costs by going on chain. Chains are now faster, better, cheaper than the relational databases to move the money. And also, similarly, the actual assets make money. So it reduces your costs and it generates revenue. Guys, it's good business. So if you're in the business of moving money, why wouldn't you be taking advantage of protocols? You know, we're not a payments company, but we partner with a bunch of them and we sell to a bunch of them, and you know we have a bunch of them as vendors. And so they're just a great way to get value from point A to point B. That reduces costs, generates revenue. Again, just good business. Like this is the most boring sale of all time.
Can you speak on this to the paradigm shift for payments companies specifically that you've seen? This is one of the most like exciting unlocks in the world of like payments is such a interesting, you know, taking little slices out of each transaction traditionally is the business model of just like how things like stablecoins with Brale can totally reframe a kind of a cost taking fractionally, like taking slices out of transactions into actually a net new revenue producing activity. Just shill that a little bit. I think it's a really powerful thing.
I can do my best. You know, there are all these companies that are, you want a Fed master account. So you get down to like below that 2 decimal threshold on like the cost of a transaction, right? Think about how many companies have basically tried to kill themselves to go get that account to get their costs down below that like mythical threshold. Blockchains already do it like for free, basically. We're already there and we're not at 2 decimals. We're like 6, 9, 10, right? It's like how many transactions can you do for $1 at that point in time without ever having to manage state in your database for like a balance? It is mind numbing how big the delta is in terms of like the new system versus the old system. Not only that, but imagine there are thousands of developers all over the world thinking about the throughput on these blockchains where you as a developer can build on top of it without ever having to become like an expert in throughput. Suddenly, like what your systems can do is orders of magnitude faster and more meaningful than what they were before, and your costs are lower. You know, it's like, that's a big deal. And I think the other thing is like, if you're building on the old systems were all built in a pre-internet era. Like they're all defined by the physics of human beings. The new systems are defined by the physics of the internet, which is always on, always open. And it, quite frankly, when implemented correctly, has like magical experiences. Like who doesn't like, that sounds like fun, you know? And it reduces costs and it makes money. So it's good business.
Yeah. Ben, it's so cool to see the business that you're in. Any kind of, as we lead into next week, we're excited to see you in person. We're excited to be there. I know we tried to do some things with, there's some news on day 0 that we're excited to get more into with you guys. Day 0 has just been such a great business and I wouldn't even call it a business, but an educational extension of Brale. And I'm so excited to see the evolution of what that could be. And yeah, for those who don't know what day 0 is, maybe we can end with that. Like, give us the update on day 0 and maybe how you're thinking about the future of that.
Yeah, day 0 is basically a place where we show demos, guys. We try to put demos in front of clients, but also from the ecosystem. I think the last thing we did was focused on Canton. Maybe there's some self-custody wallets. We've done some other ones for like payments companies and things like that. And then after the demos, which are made public, we try to have educational sessions, which are kind of like a safe place to come learn about stablecoins and things like that. Where, as you guys all know, it's like if you're talking to an executive who's thinking about how to get the pilot going, then now they have 3 months to get the pilot going for stablecoins now that they have budget, because we've kind of like crossed the chasm in that way. Those people are trying to figure it out with trusted folks. That's a safe place to learn. And also, it's a different conversation than developers that want to figure out UTXO management on Canton or Spark. These are different breakouts.
Yeah. What are some themes this year, day zero, that maybe we can, for people who have been involved in that experience in the past or have gone to some of these breakouts, virtual events, any sort of ecosystems like Canton or different learning opportunities that you want to think through this year that you think would be really interesting, or giving a little tease of what's coming thematically?
I'll be honest, guys. I'm just like trying to get to next week and get through this conference.
I know we didn't
like after that take a deep breath and figure it out next. We're trying to sort some of it out, and I think we need to be mindful of pulling the ecosystem about what people want to learn and what education they think needs to be put in place. If we were having this conversation a year ago, it was almost unthinkable to imagine that there would have been, consortiums of banks and credit unions and all these other things that are trying to figure this out at the same speed as sort of like the weekend developer. And it's all happening right now. And in some ways, it can be a little bit overwhelming. But I think for outlets that you all are building, and hopefully Brale will continue to contribute to, they become really high leverage and trusted places to just learn how to build with this stuff and how to get going. And it's just so exciting because there's so many people that are entering the space to try to build with all of us that it's stressful, but it's a good reminder for all of us of like, we are in an incredible moment in time that is rewarding and exciting, and people are by large majority like really fun to work with. Like, this is awesome. Let's just keep building stuff, guys.
Yeah.
You hit on a good point. There's always this tension that we feel where how much do we kind of impose what we think people need to learn about versus making education for what people are saying they need to learn about. Drew and I have been, you've been in this for 5-10 years thinking about stablecoins. Drew and I probably 3 or 4 years. How do we really serve the person that's 3-6 months into this conversation without them hopping on a stream and getting scared away because everything just goes over their head?
I guess I'm kind of the mind that you don't know, so just have a bias towards shipping. And it's like, if you ship it and it doesn't work, at least you didn't spend 3 weeks thinking about it. Yeah. And if you ship it and it works, just do more of that. It's amazing how binary that can be. And shoot, you can ship 2 things and both of them be right. Like 2 things can be true at the same time for 2 different people, right?
Yeah. Well, that would definitely be a call to action. If you're listening to this, we want to hear from you. We want to know, what are some of these topics, Brale related, issuance related, early ecosystems that you want more, go look at also the existing library of day zero. There's a lot of really great stuff in there from some of the names that we mentioned. And
you can find that on Brale's YouTube.
Yeah. Well, Ben, this was fun, man. Thank you for always being in the kind of early parts of new things with us. And it's great to be in it with you. And we're excited to see you next week.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Congrats. Keep shipping.